and welcome to the B-side, where we talk about Band of Brothers shit that's not necessarily the episodes. And today, we have something a little different for you guys. We're going to talk about the training of the Airborne and what these guys had to go through in the training for this B-side. And we have a new bum to introduce you to. Derek is somebody that hasn't been on any episodes yet, but we're going to introduce him a little bit. So, Derek, would you like to tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I won't say much. I'm a historian. I have the privilege of teaching military history for the U.S. Army. So I get to work with soldiers, which is a lot of fun. And I get to talk about Napoleon and the Civil War and the Germans and the French and World War I and II a lot. So anyway, it's a great gig. So a lot of fun.
Well, we appreciate it. And your coolest gig is that you're my uncle.
So, well, of course. I thought that went without saying.
Yes, we appreciate you coming on, and we appreciate you giving us some of your expertise and helping us out here.
Yeah, no, this is fun. I've been looking forward to it. So.
Well, I don't think we have any more housekeeping to get to, so I think the first thing we wanted to ask you, Uncle D, was what were the qualifications for the Airborne, or could just anybody join?
Yeah, they were all volunteers. So that was the gig. In fact, if you ever read the Stephen Ambrose book, Band of Brothers, he gets into this a little bit and talks about why they interviewed several of them about why they decided to do it. Of course, they've got a variety of answers. Some of them are like, I just want to jump out of an airplane. I get more pay if I am a paratrooper or whatever. But yeah, they all volunteered to do it. So the real test was getting through the school, but just to sign up to go into training was just volunteer. So a lot of them were going into the infantry anyway, and they just volunteered to go paratrooper instead.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sweet.
So does that mean that there was no technique that was really taught or standard then? It was just basically hey, land how you can land, or how did they even teach that if it was that new? If you only had basic training.
Well, so once they volunteered, then they have to go through. We can talk about the training aspects compared to regular basic training, but they went through a special paratrooper basic training, which was different. It was actually harder. Because you get a little bit of this from Band of Brothers, the Karahi Mountain, where they've got to run up the mountain and back because they want them to do extended marches.
Yeah, excellent VO2 max.
Yeah. Yeah. So they get the really extended physical training, and then they go to jump school, which is another period where they learn all the techniques. And they start them with jumping out a door into a pile of straw, and then they jump from a tower, and then eventually they have to make 5 jumps out of a plane.
So they just kind of refine that as they go along, So basically,
right.
So basically, who doesn't roll an ankle?
Right.
That's basically what was in the beginning. That's
I mean, there's another thing to think about with World War II, which is really interesting, is how much of this stuff is actually pretty new.
Yeah.
Right. The idea of paratroopers have been around since, by the end of World War I, the U.S. actually had plans to drop soldiers behind German lines, but the war ended before they carried it through. So they never really developed it, and then they just let it go. And it wasn't until the late 30s when they start thinking, hey, maybe that's not such a bad idea. And others are doing the same thing. So they just resurrected it, and then they developed it. As you said, they developed the techniques as they kind of learn as they go.
Yeah, because even nowadays you hear I know Vietnam vets where they still talk about their knees are still shot from it and all, and those parachutes were had to have been of better quality than what the guys in World War II had.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of them you can't steer, so you just
it's just you're just free falling, just floating and hoping,
right. That's right.
Well, you mentioned, Uncle D, that the airborne training was harder than the regular training. In what ways, and how much harder? I guess if you can articulate that.
Well, it was longer, of course, because of all the paratroop stuff. So again, the big key with the initial basic part of it was the physical. They wanted them to do really long marches because of the nature of once you land. The idea of paratroopers is to land behind enemy lines.
Yeah, and at that point,
So
you're just on foot. You have no machinery and all that. It's not like you have jeeps or anywhere on your side near you. So yeah, you're on foot. Like,
exactly, right. So you're going to have to be able to do that. So that's part of it. Is the physical training had to be more strenuous because what they're asking you to do was more strenuous, right? And then you add the paratrooper stuff in where you have to learn not only the jump techniques, but you got to learn how to pack your chute, and jump with all the, pounds and pounds and pounds of stuff that paratroopers had to jump with.
well, that was something
Right,
we've
so-
seen even in the series and everything, where like the gear like came off and everything or whatnot, or messed up like how they actually fell at that height and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah. And you think about it too. So paratroopers, they don't want to drop them too high in the air because then your opponent has too long to fire at them
Yeah.
as they're coming down. So they would drop them about 400 or 500 feet. Well, it's not very high.
No.
Right. So that's why they develop the static line, where as soon as they jump, it pulls the chute immediately because you're going pretty fast. And again, you're only about 500 feet off the ground.
Yeah,
So
so you needed all the wind resistance you needed then. Like,
yeah, that's right.
oh my god. Yeah, I didn't realize that they were only that far off the ground. I still thought that they were like at like a cruising altitude or whatever and all. Like that's wild.
Yeah. Because when they started doing it, they realized like the enemy could fire like anti-artillery or anti-aircraft artillery at them, because they could try to target them in the air or like burst artillery, things like that, or just target them with machine guns, rifles, whatever. So,
Oh yeah, because you can take out a plane with like X amount of soldiers in it rather than like fight them on the ground. Why wouldn't you? So yeah, that would be the move to do. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So, what was the washout rate during this training that we're talking about?
It's about 2/3.
Oh, wow.
damn.
The officers were actually a shade higher than the enlisted. So the enlisted washout rate is like 66%, something like that. So right at 2/3, and the officers was about 70%.
I wonder how much of that was from it, like injury percentage, just like as a whole.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it breaks down between guys that just got hurt their back or their legs, and
That's
just
what I
couldn't do
mean.
it.
Because like you see some of the stuff like I guess to like kind of compared to like SEAL training and all that, where like whether you can pass it off, you're injured, you're just out. Like you gotta go ring the bell. So like some people, their bodies just can't take it and all. And like we were talking about the repeated jumping and everything, just like I said, one wrong roll of an ankle, you're just done basically.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a great point. And like I said, I'm sorry, I don't know how that breaks down in terms of who got injured and
Oh no, yeah. I just thought that'd be pretty
bow
chill.
out
Like,
versus-
yeah, because like I said, I didn't realize it was that high. Like I just assumed it was like, all right, this guy can't make the run, they can't hack it, so you just drop out and all. But yeah, as we're talking about it more and more, I was like, yeah, there's a lot of factors that are gonna knock people out of this.
Yeah.
So if
Well,
they-
you figure too, because they're volunteers.
Yeah.
Some of these guys probably maybe weren't that well fit for it, but
Well,
they
like
let
you
them
said,
try
just-
anyway.
Just the idea
Right.
of more, like you said, it's like, hey, more money if you do this. Like, and if you're a basic infantryman, you're like, yeah, why not? Like, I could see it.
So
Yeah.
if they washed out, were they just sent back to like the regular army? Were they like was there like a protocol for that? Do you know?
Yeah, as far as I know, they just went back to regular infantry,
Yeah.
Okay.
So it'd be like
unless
failing
they
out of like
slotted
Ranger
them for
school or
something else later on. But I mean, that's what paratroopers are, is just airborne infantry, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So if you wash out of paratrooper school, they just went back to infantry.
to the ground. Like,
Yeah, right.
like,
So I know you mentioned Curry the mountain that they used to climb all the time at Camp Toccoa. Was that the only airborne training facility here in the States, or was there more of them?
There was more. So obviously the 101st trained there. That was their basic training, though. So that's the physical training, right, which you get from the show. Then they would go to Fort Benning, which is actually where the jump school was. Or I think the jump school still is at Fort Benning. And so they went there. So the like Easy Company and all these guys, they were trained at Toccoa first, then they did jump school at Benning. Then you do higher level, like echelon training at Camp McCall in North Carolina. That was for the 101st. I think the 82nd actually did their basic training at Benning and the jump school at Benning. But anyway, there's at least three. And then in their case, of the 101st, they wound up doing like divisional level training at Fort Bragg before they deployed too. But the airborne stuff was first Toccoa, then Benning, and then McCall.
I don't know if I mean I don't know how familiar you are with all of it. So if you don't know it, obviously, oh well. But there's also like in those first, I think it's in the second episode where they send them to England to train for a while. What were they doing there? Do you know?
Yeah, they're doing. They're trying to work with like all the bigger, like those combined arms, right? And so then that's obviously as close as they can get to France before they go. And so they staged them all in England. Then they trained over there with not only daily keep up your fitness and this kind of stuff, but they're also training with the artillery and the ground forces and higher commands and all this kind of stuff. So everything can be coordinated and work better together once they engage in the actual operation.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Did they have like specialized tactics that they developed for airborne, or did they learn that as they went to?
They do some. I mean, yeah, so part of this training is also like, I mean, honestly, some of it is just how do you find each other when you get on the ground, which sounds crazy, but I mean, you can imagine how hard it is if you're going to drop, this company has 140 guys and just getting those 140 to find each other when they've all been spit out of an airplane at, however, 100 miles an hour or whatever they're jumping.
Yeah,
Right.
You can't just throw out a hooty hoo and like find your guys. Like,
Yeah, that's right. Right. And obviously you can't, right. You're not just yelling, right. As you say, right. Hey, I'm over here.
Yeah.
Everybody in E company, come over here. Right. So some of that's part of it is just like, how do we get together and get back as a unit? And then they have to, obviously they're behind enemy lines. And so they had special missions. So they had to train for whatever it is. Like in, I guess with Band of Brothers, right. Easy Company. Well, actually the whole 101st at Normandy, for instance, they had like a series of bridges they had to take. And so they had to figure out where they are first. And then they've got to get to these targets and take them all. Right. So in terms of specific tactics, I don't know that they do much different in terms of actual fighting than the regular infantry would do, other than, again, it's just that much more challenging because of the nature of what they're doing.
So who was in charge of designing the paratrooper program?
This guy named Bill Lee or William Lee. So he was a staff member for Billy Mitchell, who's sort of the famed air guy, Army Air Forces guy. And these two came up with the idea, or at least Mitchell did the idea for the paratroopers in World War I, but again, wasn't carried out. And then Lee said again in like 1938, hey, we should resurrect this and we should start training airborne forces. And so they turned it over to him, and he's actually the one that developed the program. He ends up becoming the first commander of the 101st, actually. By that point, he was a general, so he'd been promoted, obviously, up the chain. But so, yeah, Bill Lee was the guy that did it.
Yeah, cool. I don't think we hear about him during any of that.
Mentioned anywhere in the series at all.
Yeah, he's not the commander when they go to Normandy. So,
right.
But he was first commander, like in 1940, working for the U.S. is even in the war.
So after the 101st goes through training, did they cause anything like the standards to change, or was some of the stuff they did that seemed like extracurricular? Did that become standard after that, or these guys just kind of maybe an exceptional unit that was put through hell by Sobel?
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't find any connection for that to anything that their specific training changed basic training for the Army afterwards. They do change things during the war as they learned. I mean, all of the airborne, there were like 5 airborne divisions in the U.S. Army. And 2 or 3 of them did stuff like that. And sometimes immediately after the war, you'll see things that they started doing as paratroopers that they hadn't done, or they were maybe doing at the end of the war, and they started doing afterwards. But in terms of the actual training piece, I can't find any like specific things that they actually changed because of the airborne troops.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Maybe these guys were just badasses and had to deal with more than the average bear.
That's probably fair. Yeah.
So is there other specialized units during World War II? Like, is there, I know we're talking about paratroopers heavily, but was there other specialized units or divisions that did other specialized things? I guess I'm saying specialized over and over again.
Yeah, there was. I think of World War II as almost sort of the birth of special forces. It's often given to Vietnam because you get like Green Berets and things like that in Vietnam. But World War II, you get obviously not only paratroopers. The U.S. Army experimented with light divisions. One that was designed specifically for jungle warfare. Another that was it was called the Light Truck Division. Both of those two they kind of abandoned quickly. The third one it was meant specifically for mountain use. They called it the Pack Alpine Division. That one they converted. They decided they weren't going to just have them focus exclusively on mountains, and so they made them into a full division and then renamed it the 10th Mountain Division, which is what it still is.
I can see
Right.
that. Germans love climbing mountains.
Yeah, that's right.
I get
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
all their
So-
stories take place on damn mountains.
That's right, where all the Edelweiss is. Right?
Yeah.
And then they had a motorized. They tried originally. They were going to experiment with motorized divisions too, which were obviously, as the name implies, you're not marching troops. Most everybody's motorized, but that didn't work well for the United States because we're not fighting in the United States. They had to ship them overseas, and they didn't have enough space on the ships to fit all the vehicles. So they said, "This is not worth our time."
Yeah, I always think espionage, like, whenever I think World War II. Like, it seemed like
Right.
that's one where we put, like, plants in there. Because, like you said, like, it's hard to move equipment over. But, like, a single person, we may be able to make a lie. And you can learn good enough German, like, and blend in. Like,
Right.
that's what I always think when I think World War II.
Yeah, I mean, you get stuff like the OSS, right? The
Yeah.
Office of Strategic Services that eventually becomes the CIA, right? In line with what you're saying, right? So these are folks that they send over to do special missions. Or there was another group called the Jedburghs. It was a small unit, and they were all commandos, and they would drop behind enemy lines and sabotage and.
Yes, I would just like to say I'm a Jed. Like, that just sounds cool. Like, it just-
Yeah, that's right.
A Jedburgh sounds like they should be fighting the Hatfields and McCoys.
Yeah.
It does, right? They're in Kentucky somewhere in the mountains and fighting the Jedburghs. Yeah. And then there was one special force. It was a combined American-Canadian group called the First Special Service Force, I think was the name of it. And they were the same deal. They were just like secret commandos that had these very small units, and their whole mission was to infiltrate behind enemy lines and stir up trouble,
Yes.
which I think they did pretty well.
Well, I know you mentioned the Mountain Division guys. Were they used a decent amount during during World War II?
Yeah, they fought in Italy because there's a lot of mountain fighting in Italy, and that's where they sent the 10th, was to Italy.
Gotcha. Well, I know I asked a similar question once already, but I want to revisit it and maybe have a different answer for us. After the 101st was deployed, did they make any modifications to what they were taught, or even what they had to do on their jumps? Because I know, like, they talk about like the famous leg bags, the 80-pound bags they had strapped to their legs, and they all lost them because they wouldn't stay on their legs. Like, did they fix that during the war or anything like that?
I don't know that the Army fixed it or that the airborne divisions fixed it. From my understanding is a lot of the soldiers figured out stuff on their own, and it would just pass from individual to individual, like maybe try this, do this. But it wasn't necessarily like Army policy. But a lot of the commanders figured out that what their guys were doing worked, and so they just let them do it.
Like, the
apparently
norm
a lot of them.
becomes the standard. Like,
Yeah, right, exactly. Right. So apparently some of them start using like guns with no stocks. You can see pictures of some of them.
yeah, I
They
see
just have
those
a
a lot.
frame, but there's no.
Like,
Right. Or, they would send down the bigger, like the Browning automatic rifles initially in parts. And then some of them figured out they could actually put them barrel down beside one of their legs, like strapped to their pant leg. And then they could land. Of course, they obviously want to land barrel down, right? And then the gun was ready to be used when they hit the ground. So some of them were doing stuff like that. But none of this, as far as I know anyway, was, again, official policy. It was just like individual paratroopers said, hey, this doesn't work. Cut this crap. Let's do this. Let's try it this way.
Well, Ray, with your experience in the military? Is that something that happens a lot? Like you kind of figure things out on your own?
Yeah, because our motto is adapt and overcome. So you kind of got to figure it out sometimes. Because you can only get so much training, but there's going to be so much shit thrown at you that you're just going to have to figure it the fuck out.
That's right.
Fair enough.
Sounds like a universal military motto. You're just gonna have to figure it the fuck out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just something I like. This is maybe a shade tangential, but I just find this funny. Like, because I ask my students, like, how much? Think about what soldiers, and you could obviously speak to this, right? Like, how much would a pack that you had when you're going out in the field? How much stuff are you carrying? How much do you think that was?
So my Molly pack was probably 80 pounds. Plus, it got probably another 15 with the day pack, and that's what we rode with. But like, I was a radio operator, so that's another like 15 to 20 pounds because we was running around with the PRC 119s. Still,
wow.
We didn't have the one. What was it? The little handheld ones. You had the 113s or whatever they were called. But we didn't have those yet until the end. So we was running around for 3 years with the prick 19s.
That's nice. So you're talking what, 110, 115 pounds of stuff you're carrying?
Probably that 120, probably close to it.
Yeah. So I always do this with my students because they'll say that, like, well, we carry about 80 pounds, right? Think about all the movies you've seen of medieval knights in armor, and they walk like this, right? But armor was battle armor only weighed about 60 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's evenly dispersed over your whole body.
The whole thing.
Right? These guys could move around probably easier than modern soldiers can.
Well, and the first thing that you thought of when Ray was even talking about 120 pounds, is like, that's coming down on each knee, hip, and ankle on one leg, each step and all that every time. And that force is even like times 2. So it's more like each leg is generating almost like 200, 300 pounds and that you're really getting through your body. So yeah, like that's a lot to just march with.
I think marching with that weight is sounds terrible, but jumping out of a plane and landing on your legs with that much weight sounds even worse.
Well, because even that, like, think about how that could even like account for some of the attrition rate. Like I said, if you're doing a ruck march like that or whatever at all, like, hey, gear up and we're just going to go for a run. How many people is that going to take out over a period of time?
Right.
There was a lot of falling out. I remember in our runs.
I bet. Yeah, I bet there was. Anyway, I just think about like the stuff that soldiers, Marines, sailors, airmen, everybody has to carry with them. That's asking a lot.
Because that's what what's his name, Matt Winning. He's a strength and conditioning coach, and he's redone the basic training for the military, where there is more like weight training and everything, and building of muscle tissue and all that now. Because that was his thing. Is he the only reason I know about the weight thing is because he got a contract with a fire department. For the same reason, you had a bunch of firemen where the hips were shot because of the amount of weight, and you're stepping off a fire truck like it's 1 foot high with like almost 100 pounds of gear, like repeatedly just banging these guys up. So he had to try to figure out how to strengthen like the lower back, hips, and legs to actually take that shock over a time, so you can like retire and get your pension.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that's interesting. That's very interesting.
Well, my brother-in-law deployed last year, and he was gone for a year, and he came back, and he's like, I don't know, a couple years younger than me, so mid-30s, I guess. And he's like, I'm in the best shape of my life. He's like, they made me lift every day. He's like, I deadlifted like 5 days a week. He's like that. He's like, and I've never. This is his 4th deployment. But he's like, this is the first time they had me do this all the time. He's like, I literally worked out every single day. He's like, they made us go to the gym, and like their gym was like on the roof of a building. He was but like he was like, he came back. He's like, I'm in the best shape of my life.
I was on the rooftop gym. That does sound cool.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting stuff. Yeah. Think about how much that, like, say, what the kind of toll that would take on soldiers' bodies and carrying all that stuff. So
because these guys are that's like, even thinking of the series now, these guys are walking everywhere. Like it's no wonder it was a big deal to talk shit to the guys, to where like when you see them walk, like what was it, like the one of the episode where, like, those are the guys that shit in our foxholes and all that. Like, enjoy, like, it's like, yeah, the saying "enjoy your walk" is a bigger dig knowing that now.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, really
Yeah,
enjoy
that's
it.
right.
I'm on the truck. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, yeah, a lot of walking, that's for sure. They walked some serious distances. All these guys did, man. So,
Well, when they first land in episode 2, and then like you mentioned earlier, Uncle D, like where they're trying to find each other.
Yeah.
You know, like they're just wandering around the German countryside or French countryside, and just like trying to find each other, trying to find people from even joining up with people from other companies, getting in firefights, then walking some more. Like I don't know how much ground they covered, but it seemed like a lot.
well, think about it this way: the landing zone was like an 8-mile square, and about 1,000. I think there were 6,000 troops from the 101st that jumped, and only 1,000 of them actually made it into the 8-mile square.
yeah, I totally.
And about 1,500 missed it by so far they were captured or killed by the Germans before they could get anywhere.
No, I totally believe that,
go ahead.
though. Like, think about, like they said, the speed of the plane at that low of altitude, and you only have 8 miles on the ground with wind going. Like, like you're lucky you landed anywhere near where you were supposed to be.
Well, not only that, but you had all those planes getting shot out, so guys were panicking and hitting the green button too early or too late, or
That's what I mean,
all
like,
sorts of stuff.
Yeah, you're talking about almost like launching a ship to where it's like if you're off by like inches, you're off by miles at your destination. Like, so it's like, you're talking about if it's too early, like, well, now you're a kilometer over there, buddy. Good luck. Like, just
Right. But plus, the night they jump, it's the weather. I mean, it's cloudy, so there's cloudy spots. So sometimes they don't know exactly. They can't figure out exactly where they are in the plane either. Right. So, but I mean, a week later, they still couldn't find about 1,500 of them. They still hadn't located. It takes forever for them to actually figure out where they are and coalesce again as a unit because they're scattered all over the place.
A week later, they couldn't find 1,500 men.
Yeah, they had not. They might have been fighting, but they were not fighting with the 101st. Like they were scattered out.
Guarantee they were fighting. That had to have been ridiculous. Yeah, like you're just wandering around trying to find another American, basically, and all. Like, no, not at all.
Right. You know, they all carried, and you might have heard them mention this. I can't remember if they mentioned in the show where they called them dime store clickers or dime store crickets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Because that's how they would communicate. And it was a toy, right? But they figured out they'd go. And then if that was "Who are you?" and was "I'm friendly."
Okay, yeah.
And so you can imagine all these guys walking around the French countryside, clicking their way around, trying to find people. So
I'm just imagining people that are like just locals in those areas, like hearing that stuff. All I just like, what the hell was that? Like,
that's right.
Like as if they don't have enough to worry about. There's this weird clicking Morse code happening around them. Like,
right. Yeah.
So do they only have those 2 messages, or do they have more messages they can click to each other?
Those are the 2 that I come across easy. There might have been more, but they weren't designed for like communicating. They were designed just for you to verify that you were an American.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So you could just, you heard the click and you responded to it, and then you knew you were with somebody that knew the code. So.
Well, I wasn't planning on asking this, so if you don't know, again, I apologize. But was it standard procedure to carry a magnifying glass in your zipper? Because Winters unzips his pants and pulls a magnifying glass out so he can look at the map better.
Oh, yeah. I bet.
I've never seen that, right? So yeah, no, he does that. I don't think that was standard procedure. So that wasn't
That's
included
just
in the.
You knew you had bad eyesight. You bring your own.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, that maybe that was included, and I just haven't found it. But
yeah, I would have kept one like that. I can't see for shit. Like, that's
Let me get my glasses.
They would have known exactly where I am. Like,
big light. And,
like.
Oh, he put his raincoat over his head so he didn't see the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm out of questions for the training stuff. AJ, Ray, Tom, do you guys have any more questions for Derek?
I got one. What kind of stuff did they actually have in their packs?
They have, of course. Well, actually, hang on. I'm going to pull something up. I made a whole list of these because I was going through this, and I wanted to make sure I get all this as a whole list. Hang on one second.
I feel like I would want extra socks.
Oh yeah,
Like
they
that's
have plenty of
like
stuff.
every time I want socks and ammo. Like just
So here's the list of what they jump with for Normandy. Okay. So they have a knife with a brass knuckle grip,
Yes.
which they usually tuck into their jump boots. Of course, they got a parachute. They have a reserve chute. The U.S. Airborne were the only ones that had 2 chutes. Everybody else jumped with 1 only. Right? They've got life jackets. They called Mae Wests after the actress. So they've got entrenching tools, fancy shovels. Of course, they have their food. They got grenades. They got fragmentation and smoke grenades, blasting caps, TNT blocks, compasses, their crickets, a raincoat, blanket, bandoliers, and a rifle. Everybody has to have cigarettes, and they have morphine. So 2 versions of that. If you get injured, you can give yourself painkillers, and if you're really injured and think you're going to die, you can overdose on it too. So
yeah, I remember
then,
because that one he's like running around grabbing what he can from everybody and all.
Yeah, right. And then the other thing is a lot of them carried pigeons, and so they would cut a hole in the bottom of a sock, and the pigeon can stick its head out, and then it's encased in the sock so it can't get away.
Yes.
And then they would safety pin them to their vests and jump with the pigeon so they could send messages. So you can imagine that's pretty interesting too.
So there was a whole branch of the military then dedicated to training homing pigeons.
Mm-hmm.
That is wild. Yeah. Is that still around today?
Well, I know because one of my students was a veterinarian, and I asked him one day, I'm like, "What are you like? Who are you treating in the Army?" And I don't think they have much in the way of pigeons anymore, but they still have lots of horses and dogs. No. And he was actually a marine biologist because the Army still has dolphins too. So,
hey, there's a lot of the ocean we don't know, Derek. Like we need all the help we can get. Like, and if we can train the little dolphin, we can train an orca someday. It's just a big dolphin. Like,
yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know.
No, I did not realize the pigeon cracks me up. I did not realize that every soldier had like basically a bird in their pocket. Like just
that's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, the paratroopers anyway, right? Because depending on where they are, they could send the pigeon and it could go deliver a message about what was going on. Right? So.
Great.
You just whisper in the pigeon's ear where to go, or
I'm more thinking about now. I got to keep a pet alive along with myself. Right. That's what I'm thinking. It's like now I got to find bird food and everything or something for this thing, or like water and find a worm, like
land too hard and roll over.
Oh my god, yeah. How shitty would you feel if you killed your pigeon? Everybody just have a dead bird in a sock.
Oh, I guarantee people ate them at points.
Yeah, I think what's that squaw? What it's called? Like, so it's a delicacy. Like,
yeah.
You're in France, it's fine. Like, they won't judge over there. Like,
that's right. That's right. Well,
Ray, you good, buddy?
Well, I might have a crazy second question.
So
I watched a lot of Hogan's Heroes back in the day.
Hogan's Heroes.
How much underground espionage was there going on?
So quite a bit. The U.S. actually has no real intelligence network at the beginning. At the beginning of World War II, or not much of one. Excuse me. They developed intelligence in World War I and then disbanded it all. So they got to rebuild it, but they don't really have almost no human intelligence because they just don't have people on the European continent. But all the other ones do, all the other major nations. So the Soviets actually had the best human intelligence. Mm. They got people everywhere. And so there's all kinds of Soviets embedded in, Stalin there was a German diplomat who was assigned to the Japanese embassy. His name was Ricard Sorga, and he was a Soviet spy. And so he could report to the Soviets on both Japanese and German diplomatic moves and military planning. Okay. And he fed Stalin all kinds of stuff on both the Germans and the Japanese. So this kind of stuff is, again, you get the British, the secret, or the Special Operations Executive, and then the US OSS, and the French have a secret service, the Soviets, the Germans, everybody does. So there's quite a bit of it. It's pretty extensive.
Okay.
Wow. AJ, you got anything, or are you good?
I think I'm good.
Tom, you got anything else, buddy?
No, I'm still blown away by the pigeon stuff. I'm not no lie. Like that's that cracks me up. Like,
oh shoot.
Yeah, no, it's wild.
Well, Uncle D, we appreciate you coming for this episode, and I think we got you on the calendar for another episode, so we'll look forward to seeing you then. But I think it's time to wrap this up. Is there anything you'd like to add before we sign off?
No, I don't think so. Like I say, I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun, gents. Great hanging out with you. So I'll look forward to episode 2.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we appreciate you tuning in for this B-side, and catch you next time on the B-side.